Good afternoon, everyone. We are coming in these days to a very special time, very special month. It's the month of Shvat. Thursday is Rosh Chodesh, and this Shabbat is going to be the first Shabbat in this month. And as we know, that the month of Shvat is a very special month, because this is the month, the 10th day of Shvat. This is when the Rebbe took upon himself the leadership of the Chabad movement in the world, under leadership to become the leader for the entire Jewish world, affecting the entire Jewish world. As we all know, we don't have to talk about it now. But something we have to share in this week's Parsha, related to that, related to his messages, related to his work. So we'll do something very short in that idea. And this is, in this week's Parsha, as we all know, we're learning about the exodus of Egypt. After the 3 plagues that we're learning this week Parsha, the last 3 plagues, and that evening that we're eating the offering, the Paschal Lamb as we call it, they finally left Egypt. Towards the end of this week's Parsha, we're learning when God gives the message about the idea of remembering, the idea of the exodus of Egypt, the idea of Pesach, and the law of firstborn that belongs to the Kohen, as all the details are in this week's Parsha. The Parsha gives us a line. The line goes, V'ayak yishalcha bincha machar. If your son will ask you tomorrow, what is all that? And the Torah tells us that this is our responsibility to teach our son, to make him aware of the exodus of Egypt, to make him aware of everything we're learning, especially in this 6th Parsha, especially about the importance of the firstborn that belongs to the Kohen. Tells us Rashi a very strong statement. Rashi says, the famous commentary on Torah, when your son will ask you tomorrow, what does tomorrow mean? Tomorrow, the son knows. He lived through the exodus of Egypt, etc. What does it mean tomorrow? That he doesn't know, when he's going to ask you, what does that mean? Tells us Rashi, Yeshmacha shu achshav v'yeshmacha shu la'achar zman. There is a tomorrow of now. There is tomorrow. La'achar zman means after a long time, a new era, a new generation, etc. And this is what the explanation, the way Rashi explains us, that the Torah tells us, when your son will ask you tomorrow, it does not mean you're literally a son, the son of the father that went out of Egypt, because that son knows and remembers the exodus of Egypt, or he was there, or he knows that because everybody speaks about it. It was right there or right after. Tells us Rashi that the Torah is referring to is the machar, the tomorrow after a long time. A new generation. A generation that they weren't there. A generation that is nobody to tell us a story. A generation that nobody experienced that story. A generation of a new life. And that time, there may be a son coming and saying, what is all that? He doesn't know about anything. He doesn't know about what the exodus of Egypt resembles to him. Yes, he knows the story. He watched it. But what does it mean to him? When he's asking, what is all that mean to me? He doesn't understand why the firstborn boy should be for the Kohen. What does it mean to me? It's completely separated. is completely in a new generation. It's completely in a new life. And this is what the Torah tells us. It's our obligation. It does not mean your literal son. It means that son of Jews that is away, did not experience everything, did not see everything, did not live everything. And our duty is not to ignore that son and to make him aware and to explain him about Exodus of Egypt and explain about all the details. What is a Jew all about? This is a beautiful Rashi in this 6th Parsha. And this is so connected to this month, and as we said, the 10th day of the month, that this is the leadership of our Rebbe begun. That was his theme, and this is what he requested, and this is what he's constantly relating a message to us, that this is what we gotta do. To find that son that doesn't know, that he's asking what is it all about, and explain it to him. This is our duty. And this is our mission statement that the Rebbe gives us. Especially in this 6th Parsha, especially when it's in this month, the month of his leadership. Just to share a short story of him himself, that he lives this, and he teaches us this. And this is a long story, but I'll make it short, as I can always try. And this was a great tzaddik that lived in Israel. His name was Rabbi Yochanan. It's from the dynasty, Hasidic dynasty of Rachmistivke. This is for Chernobyl, as it's known, a great Hasidus for many generations. And this Rabbi Yochanan came to the United States for the wedding of his son. His son today is a Rebbe, if I'm not mistaken, in Borough Park. And he came to that wedding. And when he came to that wedding, he came to see the Rebbe. Because the Rebbe is a tzaddik, and also because the Rebbe was there with him at the same time in Russia, prior of the exodus of Russia. And when he came into the Rebbe told him, Rabbi Yochanan, you're here in America. I gotta tell you, there's a fellow Jew that was with us in Russia, that he worked with us then, he helped Jews. But here in America is unfortunately lost. You think you came to America, the Rebbe tells him, for your son's wedding? You came to America to try to influence him to come back to his roots. And the story is a long story that he took upon himself as a mission. And they met up. And when Rabbi Yochanan, great tzaddik, saw him, he started crying and crying. He melted his heart. And he came back to tshuva. He gave the report to the Rebbe after. And the Rebbe said, look how divine it is. We're here for his son's wedding, but we're really here to teach that fellow that was completely lost. And you had to come from Israel to bring it back to Hashem. This is how the Rebbe lives his life. That we all here for that son that's asking the questions, to give him the answer. Let's all learn to do the same thing, especially this month, the month of Shvat, the 11th month, as we'll talk later so much more about it. Have yourself all a good Shabbos, a good Farbrengen. We'll talk soon.